Hey, and welcome back to Vanquish. In this part we're going to be continuing on with Act 3, and yeah, we've just taken down a big tank fucker, which was pretty satisfying, just as it was the time before when we took down the big tank fucker. But yeah, the first thing proper in this mission is we get another one of these stand around and loiter sections, and there'll be like yet another one in just a few minutes too, which, given in the last part I was trying to defend this game in saying that like there's only a couple of these, I'm now being proven wrong, because there was the one in the last part with the bridge, then there was that one loitering waiting for the gate to open, and in just a minute we're going to have this elevator here, which is yet another one. Like, obviously it's an elevator, so you're just standing there, like just waiting in the lift as it goes up. And yeah, it's the thing that I think is probably really noticeable here, because there's like 3 of them almost in a row. That last guy there, it looked for a minute like he weren't going to get in properly, which did amuse me. But anyway, in the last part I spent quite a long time talking about the overall look of the game, like the look of Vanquish, as well as like the look of certain other games. And like, I think I've covered that quite a lot at this point, so the thing that I haven't talked about much in this playthrough is Vanquish's audio. And the first thing that really sticks out to me is this game is quiet, but the other thing is that the music, it's mostly subtle. Like, there's a few pieces, like a few techno sort of things that occasionally bump up the energy, but it's never like front center. It's always like complementary to like the sound effects and the character voices, which it makes sense. This isn't the kind of game that I would expect to have like some really kick-ass vocal theme going on all the time. Like, it's just not that kind of game. But it's, compared to a lot of the other games that I play, it's something that it's a bit of a change of pace to have it more as the diegetic audio taking focus rather than the non-diegetic. Like, there's a few more things that I'll get into audio later down the line, because I know there's a cutscene coming in soon, but it is pretty much like focused primarily on the in-world audio. Now that's a fucking huge shot. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. It's at this point we are getting towards like one of my favourite set pieces from the game, like the broken up highway, which the next part of the mission will be set on. Like, this section here, this is like a really cool thing, and I do recall this like taking me a good few attempts just to get down right. Primarily because of my incompetence. Like I mentioned a couple of parts ago, it was one of my stupid moments where I wasn't really paying too much attention to where everyone was shooting at me for. Also, it is a little bit difficult, like it's picking up a little bit in that you've got now all these different angles that guys can be shooting you from. Like, if you think back to the train section from an earlier part, except now, because the road's all like scattered and, you know, like your movement is affected by that as well, you just got that extra layer over it. So like, yeah, like I say, it took me a few takes to get down right. I don't know why that other guy was flickering in and out of existence just then, but hey. It's one of them things that just happen sometimes. But yeah, as I was saying like, about the audio, I said that the main focus is the diegetic sounds rather than the non-diegetic music. The other thing that stands out to me quite a bit is how naturally quiet this game is. Like, that's not just my recording. Like, when I'm playing the game, it's naturally quite quiet as well. Maybe they've changed that a bit. Like, I seem to recall videos of the console versions where it was much louder. Like, not peaking loud, but much more prominent. And I don't know whether they've turned it down in the remaster, or whether it's just a case that the videos I've seen, the person playing had turned it up or not. Like, sometimes it's hard to tell, especially when everyone has different setups, but I wouldn't be surprised if, given the nature of the audio direction in this game, that there's a lot of gunshots, there's a lot of like guys shouting to each other, stuff like that, if it was like an intentional thing to turn it down, just to like preserve the quality of that. Because that's the thing that I've noticed in a good handful of games, like particularly remasters of previous gen games, like, which is quite an oddly specific thing, but if you think like, say, the DMC remaster, like that fucking Sonic Adventure 2 HD remaster on Steam and whatnot, like, they all seem to turn up the audio a lot to the point where it's peaking, which is a decision that I kind of get, but also it's really counterproductive to making the audio sound good. Because it's like a technique known as the loudness war, and it's been happening in music, like progressively getting more and more prominent over time, where they just gradually make the song sound louder and louder, and that's to make it stand out on the radio compared to the previous song before it. But the issue you have there is that once you go beyond a certain threshold, the audio just peaks, and so it starts sounding less like clean recorded music, and it sounds more like just scratchy, dirty noise. It just doesn't sound good.
I think I'll take the monorail. You and your goddamn rides.
Although, saying that, like, that cutscene there sounded a bit more neutral. I don't know whether the cutscenes are mixed differently or whether it's just because I was, like, seeing it at the moment. It's an unusual decision to make for a game to go quieter, although it does help the audio quality, so I'll take it. But then again, I could just be talking out my arse, because like, my speakers that I have, my PC speakers, they're not terrible by any means, but they are also cheap PC speakers. I think they cost me like maybe 20 quid, something like that. They're pretty standard Logitech speakers. And I've noticed, this is a thing that I have noticed a lot when I'm working with audio, that background audio sounds much more prominent through my headphones than my speakers. And for the sake of recording the game, I have it on my speaker setting. And the reason for that is that when I listen to my headphones, I have to turn it down a bit. Whereas I want to preserve the full, like, natural game volume for the sake of the recording, so that, like, obviously for the commentary I'll turn it down, but for the version I actually playthroughs, I can get it, like, the game's naturally intended volume for the most part. Unless it's like a game that really is scratchy, and so I'll turn it down. But yeah, it's just, like, I've gone way off track here, but the general point I'm getting is this game sounds a lot quieter than I would expect. But then you do get moments like this where, like, the whole thing is so much more ambient. Like, there's a soft sort of, I think it's meant to be a gentle wind sound going on now, which you probably barely be able to hear in the video, but because I'm listening to it at a decent volume on my headset right now, I can just about pick out. It's subtle, but it's effective. Especially for this particular scene here, because although this isn't... Actually, this kind of is stealth, because like, we're sneaking into this space area. We're using a silencer on the rifle just to pick out the searchlights. So yeah, it kind of is complementary. And this is quite a juxtaposition compared to, like, even just the previous mission where we were directly in harm's way and we were all guns blazing, taking out all the different enemies, and now we've got cool, like, ambient slowly sniping things out. This is the sort of thing that maybe it does outstay its welcome a little bit. Like, I don't mind having a little bit of a stealth section, just to kind of, like, it fit the theme of sneaking into the place, but I don't know, like, once you've picked out the searchlights, then, yeah, next thing, please. Like, you can only pick out so many searchlights before you are just literally doing the same thing over and over. And thankfully we have this guy now to shoot out the sky and do away with all the stealth that we've been doing. And the other thing in terms of audio, given that's kind of my little spiel for this part, is the voice acting. Because the voice acting in this game is very solid. All the character voices feel appropriate for their characters, like they've cast the right people in my opinion. And just the general balancing and direction, it just sounds like spot on for what it needs to be. But in terms of the actors themselves, like, granted I'm not very well read in terms of voice actors, so I'm just going to list off examples of other series or other games that these people have been in. But Sam here. Sam is voiced by Gideon Emery, who has also been in the Uncharted games. He's been in Fire Emblem Fates, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Wonderful 101, The Last of Us, and there's a few other things. Like, I'm just giving a handful of examples from all these different voice actors. Elena is voiced by Carrie Walgreen, who's been in Fate Stay Night, the Unlimited Blade Works dub from a little while ago. She's been in Rick and Morty, in Naruto. In terms of games, she's been in Injustice 2, Final Fantasy 15, and The Wonderful 101 again, like, alongside Gideon Emery.
Explosives should do the trick.
Burns, with his like really gruff, heavy smoker voice, even though it's Sam we see smoking, but the kind of voice you think of for a heavy smoker, it's basically Burns' voice as the gruff, edgy dude. He's voiced by Steve Bloom, who is fairly well known. Like, I'd heard of the guy outside of this game, so that is my standard for quite well known. But yeah, he's been in a bunch of other things. He's been in Batman Telltale. I think he was like in the main villain's voice before they got revealed, like their identity, which I'm not going to spoil because I think that's a pretty good game, Batman Telltale series. He's also been in Arkham Knight. He's been in Final Fantasy Type 0. He's been in Shadow and Mordor and Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. And there's Candide, who, you know, the professor guy we saw earlier on in the game. We'll be seeing a bit more of him later on in the game too. He's voiced by Benito Martinez, who, he doesn't have as many credits, and the ones that he has, I think he's been in mostly like smaller roles, additional voices, stuff like that. But he's been in Battlefield Hardline. He's been in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and also Killer 7. I believe they're the only three that I saw on his like behind the voice actors page. He might have had some other things that he's been in that I just don't know about. It's always a possibility, but you know. And there's Zaitsev, you know, the Russian dude who's like the main big bad of the game. He's voiced by Mark Walden, who someone else I haven't heard of, but he's been in a few other games. He's been in, again, Final Fantasy Type 0. He's been in Lego Batman 3, Marvel Heroes, Halo Wars, and also Jack and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. That, to my recollection, is the first one. And the other main role, I guess, is President Winters, the totally not a Hillary Clinton lookalike character. She is voiced by someone called Lee Merriweather, who also has very few roles listed. Like, the only one I saw, other than President Winters on her page, is someone called Eva from Metal Gear Solid Guns of the Patriots. Like, Metal Gear Solid 4, that is. I haven't played that game. I actually really don't know that much about Metal Gear, which is kind of odd given it's a series that I see put in front of me a lot. But yeah, that's the only other role I saw. Like, she might have been another one of these voice actresses who's like got a lot of uncredited additional voices, which is quite a possibility. Or maybe she's been in some other media, I'm not sure.
The Creon is headed for the center of the colony. It's in landing position.
Roger.
But yeah, a lot of that is coming down from me having to do research to find out about these other roles, because I am like not particularly well versed in this kind of thing.
Are the ambient light reflectors down?
Affirmative.
But yeah, we're coming sort of toward the end of this little monorail mission here. This is quite reminiscent of me to the earlier like rail section, because it's the same kind of deal again, in that you're on this small confined space and there's dudes shooting at you. You can't really move around much. It's not the most riveting sections. Like, we don't have the stealth gimmick anymore. We don't have the don't get detected thing, because like obviously he's behind us shooting a fucking giant flying thing at us. But yeah, this one, it does have the extra level of we've got to protect the monorail's safety. So there's this sort of imposed time limit that if he shoots you too much, then you're gonna get damaged. And I've never actually failed this section. I've never let the monorail take too much damage, more than it lets you take. I would imagine that it'd just like fail you and you have to go back to the checkpoint. But I can't confirm that. I've never seen anyone fail it either, because they seem to be quite liberal with health for the monorail. And that laser thing, I don't remember getting hit by that much either. I might have on my first time. I may get like hit once or twice in this recording, I honestly can't remember. But it's one of them attacks that looks really violent, but you know, you see it right there. I just shot the bugger down. He didn't really have much of a chance.
You've got a smooth ride ahead of you.
Now, we've just got to sit around and loiter on the thing. Just got to have one more of these little points, just to add insult to it. After me trying to defend it in the last part by saying there's only a couple, I'm now being proven wrong again by the moment. Video games like that. But ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next time for more of Act 3. Bye bye for now.